The movie opens in the past, in the city of China, where an emperor is presenting Detective D, a general, with a dragon mace. This dragon mace is incredibly powerful and precious to that king's nation. It is referred to as Dragon Blade. This is a good way to gauge the strength of the dragon mace, as it has the ability to defeat any magic in the world. Detective D is currently receiving the dragon mace for saving the monarch and ensuring the safety of the realm. He was thus given the dragon mace, the strongest weapon in their kingdom. But Queen was not prepared to give Detective D the dragon mace in this situation. She did so because she believed Detective D might use this dragon mace against them. Yet because he dismissed all of her anxieties, the king did not value a word she said. "You should return that dragon mace to Queen tells the king. King, however, disagrees with her and declares, "I have given it to him. And for that dragon mace, he deserved it." As soon as Queen heard these words, she remained silent. She, however, was not going to ignore this problem. Because she opposed giving such a valuable asset to anyone. She consequently encounters Yuchi at night. "You need to take that dragon mace from Detective D." Queen gives him an assignment. If Detective D misplaces that dragon mace, the monarch would punish him fatally, according to their plan. Detective D's chapter will be finished as a result. This will allow Dragon Mace to return to their castle. Here, it had been made known that Yuchi was Detective D's friend. He also didn't want to cause him any trouble. But Queen concurs with Yuchi when he says, "If you do me a favor, I might take care of Detective D and his family's protection. And despite my request, the king will do nothing about them." Yuchi had been given a challenging mission to do. Thus, in addition to calling him, Queen also phoned other people. They were a particular type of magician, and they dealt with people through casting enchantments. Every magician had their own specialties. By the Queen's command, they are now showing their powers to Yuchi. As Yuchi see it, the mission that the Queen is forcing them to complete is too important for an unidentified individual to be involved. "We can't rely on strangers," Yuchi was telling Queen. "It has been known to happen that strangers have dated those who oppose us. Moreover, they are attempting to take the dragon mace." Yet, the Queen here tells Yuchi not to worry. The issue is that Detective D is the most audacious individual. He is also really intelligent, too. To catch him or take his dragon mace is no simple task. As a result, I have summoned them for your assistance because you would never lead it alone. And they'll follow your instructions to the letter. In this group, there was also one girl visible, who went under the name Water Moon. Coming out of the water flawlessly, she demonstrates her skill. While other people have also shown off their abilities here. Among them, someone had a trick for making objects in the air vanish. Some magicians had a trick where they could burn anything. Because he could produce more than 2 arms from his body, their commander was multi-talented. He also once performed a magic performance while surrounded by flames. It is clear that everyone wants to expel Detective D. They started a fire in the owner's home as well as a well-known painting studio. Eventually, Detective D was tasked with looking into this matter. Detective D travels there to look into that case. Here, it can be seen that Fly Smoke, a member of Yuchi's team with the ability to make himself and objects disappear, was spying on Detective D. The painting for which the painting shop owner was so concerned was found under the table at the same location of the store when his team's other members were at residence obtaining the dragon mace. Owing to this, Detective D had looked into it and found that there had not been a heist, but that the location had instead been set up as a trap. One of the soldiers was about to touch the picture when Detective D stopped him. Coming forward while holding the picture, the owner of the painting shop's hands turn poisoned, and his entire body appears deformed at first. His mouth discharges a white substance, which causes him to pass out. And while gazing around, Detective D had noticed the flying smoke on the roof of the room. As flying smoke starts to chase him out of that location, he vanishes himself in the air. Above, flying smoke was flying past the bamboo tower. Additionally, Detective D was trailing flying smoke when he jumped from that point. Then, Detective D noticed a large pot there. There is undoubtedly something in this pot that is not just an ornament, Detective D had realized. He then leaps off of the opposite side. Also, he orders his forces to stay clear of it. When everyone had left the area, the pot that was really toxic. In contrast, Water Moon and a strange fire magician were spotted in Detective D's home. As they entered, they looked at a riddle. After they resolved this, they could advance. Water Moon finds a way to answer that conundrum. She ultimately arrived at a box with Dragon Mace in front of them. It becomes apparent that the Dragon Mace was a trap as soon as Water Moon picks it up. A second mace was put in its place. Several vases are smashed there when it is picked up. The loud shattering sounds woke up every soldier. As Water Moon and that fire magician prepared to depart, a trap was set up above them. They are both caught up in this. They burned it with a fire magician, and they got away before the soldiers showed up. Yuchi was keeping watch over this side over there, who was pursuing Detective D and displaying his rage on Flying Smoke, as a result of Flying Smoke's attempt to murder Detective D. Also, it has been made clear to Yuchi that none of the four are with him. However, they are looking for a way to murder D. The mystery of all facts, however, remains unsolved. They were seen in front of Queen the following day. As they had failed to fulfill the mission, they felt humiliated. Despite their skill, Queen was getting upset with them because they weren't able to collect the mace when slaying the man. Queen had now assumed control of the situation from Yuchi. Taiyan now held the reins of authority. That magician with more than 2 magical arms was him. He also once utilized flames to cast spells. Queen is once more spotted at night. Who had been to a prison with Yuchi, and we knew that Queen meets a man there. And it was made clear here how crucial the prisoner is to the Queen. Queen also follows his recommendations. She also consented to give Detective D the Dragon Mace back. Also, he advised her to have Detective D commit a murder right away. In order for Dragon Mace to return to your castle once more. Day, Yuchi is spotted going to Detective D's house to meet him. Before he says a single word, Detective D tells him, "I know there is a queen behind all activities." Here, Detective D is now writing Yuchi a note. This presented a puzzle. After figuring out the problem, he learned about the Dragon Mace. Detective D also informed Yuchi that a major catastrophe would soon befall our kingdom. We will both have to deal with this catastrophe. Detective D later vanished, and it was revealed in the film that he was aware of being pursued as he was leaving. And they will undoubtedly attempt to grab his Dragon Mace. A young woman is observed spying on Detective D's helper. He had seen a sigh in the market as Detective D's helper was crossing it. He had been staring at it with his eyes closed. It appeared as though he was being hypnotized. However, a man who arrived there before he was hypnotized secures him. Nobody else but Detective D was this man, who had disguised themselves and come here. In the subsequent scene, a strange individual could now be seen. There were numerous ritual-related items all around, and as the man sought to get the authority, it was coming to light about him. He therefore had influence over Queen thanks to his use of sorcery. Queen was shown who was in Detective D's office the following morning. And she was asking Detective D's aide about him. In response, he says that Detective D had visited him at home to meet his family. Queen now had the ideal opportunity to pull off her ruse. She displays a fake dragon mace and informs everyone that Detective D has gone astray. In addition, he had been disciplined by losing his job. After all of these events, Detective D's assistant was now going to tell him about it. Water Moon was pursuing him at the time. Yet he was also Detective D's assistant. Therefore, deceiving that female, he approaches Detective D. And he recounts to him the entire incident. The assistant to Detective D was already under the influence of hypnosis when she saw this sign, which is now being displayed here. Here was the explanation of the significance of this sign. This sign originated in India, where people revered it. The followers of this sign are extremely dangerous. Also, they were able to hypnotize people while using this sign to manipulate their brains. Although the demon who controlled this emblem was recognized, it had nonetheless contributed to the safety of this realm. Hence, the ex-king remained with him, who had a reputation as a royal fighter. That king began to sense menace from that Wind Warrior as time went on. Had the Wind Warrior locked up in a jail. This prisoner, who Queen used to meet, had been made public. He was a Wind Warrior who also put the monarch to sleep. As a result, the Queen used to listen to him and agree with him. With this, it could be determined that the Wind Warrior desired the dragon mace, whereas the Queen did not. Also, it was made known that Detective D was also aware of the presence of these warriors, who want retribution from this kingdom's rulers. Later, Yuchi was revealed as the person who had figured out the Detective D mystery. He now enters a temple. Also, he had discovered a dragon mace in a statue's hand. This is a weapon, Yuchi thought as he held the dragon mace after obtaining it. Why is there so much disagreement over this? After that, a Wind Warrior had come to murder him. Using his blade, that man shatters every statue there. He is still unable to slay Yuchi, who used the dragon mace to break all of his swords. Also, he had put him to death. By dispelling that enchantment, Yuchi came to understand just how potent this dragon mace was. Now that he had the dragon mace, he intended to present it to the queen as he entered the palace. Yet he was also afraid that the queen might keep her word after receiving the dragon mace. And his pal might not murder Detective D. But when he arrived, he was astounded to see that sorcerer had taken Detective D's general seat. She now wished to introduce him to the king as well. Queen wished for them to see how strong and talented he is. Through this, and he may now include them in his imperial at senior citizen facilities. They were then shown in front of the king after this, where Tian uses his many arms to create a storm all around him. With his many weapons, the fire magician had created lightning in that cloud. Tian was performing magic tricks when all of a sudden, it got out of hand. And his sorcery's expansion of the dark cloud. Something had smothered everything into darkness. They had all become concerned about this issue for a long. They surprised us, asking, "What has occurred here?" A statue of a god then began to tremble in front of them. Then, right before everyone's eyes, the statue changed into a dragon. That dragon howls with rage and breathes fire. As a result, everyone starts to flee in fear. It is then revealed that the dragon had used its flames to turn the fire magician into the fire. While another magician of his caliber might make anything vanish into the air, he makes the dragon soar into the air after disappearing himself. Yet, that dragon was also quite cunning, and it managed to capture that sorcerer from the air. At this moment, that man was in that man's stomach. Dragon had later fled, causing damage to the ceiling. Yuchi had now arrived at this additional building. He had the guard's assassin as quite his clone. He had reached out to protect the guards when he noticed that any man was killing them. And as it fled, the imitation gave Yuchi a quick glance. Everyone had managed to capture Yuchi, viewing him as a criminal. Detective D has now been informed about this event. Then, Detective D quickly dispatches his aide to the powerful sorcerer, Master Inachi. To secure Yuchi, Detective D arrived at the prison now. It was also possible to glimpse Water Moon, who was pursuing Detective D. But the Wind Warrior, who wished to murder that girl, had come this way. Considering that girl was performing the noble deeds, the girl is the target of the power of the Wind Warriors. She had begun to run away from this. She had seen the wolves flying through the air like demons in the interim, which she had already begun to resist. Nonetheless, she is still powerless to harm those monsters, because suddenly all three of the demons become one. They start to pursue her since they are the most powerful. That girl now displays her cunning by using a scarf. Moreover, she temporarily renders her opponents blind. She then leaps at them and attacks. As she had taken the cloth from those devils, she was astounded to realize that Queen was the demon in this situation. Queen had struck Water Moon with an enigmatic hand. While frantically saving people, that girl was fleeing the area. Queen pursued her as well. Water Moon had arrived at a godown and was making her getaway. But after being hurt there, she had fallen unconscious. Thank goodness Detective D's assistant had seen her. He had also taken her away after saving her. Wind Warrior wizards are being watched on the other side, who had begun to charm the populace. They all desired to erase everyone's memory. Here, Detective D, who had defended Yuchi, was spotted. He was also informing Yuchi that Queen is undoubtedly in danger right now. It's time to save that Queen and those people from that Wind Warrior, who is the best magician and the strongest. Now, everyone had been successful in searching for Queen from a hidden cave. In Queen's visions, she was conversing with someone there. The fact that the Queen who was visible in the real world was actually her clone had also been made clear to them all. After being hypnotized, the real Queen had been confined here, and with the help of the phony Queen, the big demon Wind Warrior was able to flee from here. Detective D's aide may be seen having arrived at the specified place. But he was only discovering objects made of stone here. A white gorilla is jumping behind him while standing. It also asks him to remain silent. That gorilla was an illusion when Detective D's helper initially appeared. He was now experiencing the sensation that he was in a river where fish were speaking to him. You cannot meet Master Yancy too soon, Fish tells him here. You need to grasp this magic better in order to meet Master Yancy. With that Fish's comment, the illusion was busted. After that, the gorilla was facing the assistant's back. He was excluded from that forest by the gorilla. There, Master Yancy was waiting for him. On the other side, Detective D, who had escorted the Queen to the palace after saving her, was seen. The assistant had now left a letter for Detective D, which note the white gorilla had handed it to him. It claimed to be a communication from Master Yancy. They were unaware that the Wind Warrior was preparing to retaliate against them, which he had learned more about from the Fire Sorcerer. However, it was well known that Fire Sorcerer did not actually accompany Queen. He was, nonetheless, the Wind Warrior's aide. They attacked the castle after learning those things, where a large-eyed monster with a large build appeared from behind a building. Because it was so large, everything else seemed little in comparison. All soldiers instantly launched a coordinated attack against it. Nonetheless, it was immune to all attacks. After everyone has been silent, Detective D advises that they recite the charmed spell. These had been sent by via Detective D's aide. After chanting the spells, numerous trees had already begun to sprout there. Moreover, those trees had lessened the demon's enchantment's impact. Despite their setback, their war has not yet over, due to the fact that Wind Warrior's other troops attacked their stronghold from behind. They defeated all the soldiers at first contact. Here, Detective D makes some pretty cunning decisions, and he requests that everyone choose the second choice. His aide rings the loudest bell for this, and more troops on horses may be seen riding towards the fortress. The men of the Wind Warrior could be attacked by those soldiers first. On the building's top story, the Wind Warrior may be seen standing, the place he begins his unique spell. As a result, each soldier was mesmerized individually. When they realized where they were going to step, a huge creature suddenly materialized there. And the arrows that the Wind Warrior's men were using to harm the troops were being taken by the soldiers like some kind of monster. As a result, every troop is vanquished. Fearful of the circumstances, Detective D brings that dragon mace right away. And within a few seconds, that dragon mace had broken the Wind Warrior. It was already established that all of the soldiers were still fine. And following the dispelling of the Wind Warrior enchantment, all soldiers are assembled once more. Detective D commands Wind Warrior to give up. He would not, however, concede defeat. In the meantime, one of his guys had tied a rope around the feet of D and hung him upside down. On the other hand, his other buddies were turning into monsters and attacking soldiers. The aide of Detective D hastily picks up the weapon that had fallen on the ground. And in an effort to save his life, he flees from that location. Before fleeing, the Wind Warrior begins his spell once more. As a result, a huge monster rears its head once more. Who had Detective D in his hand, turned upside down, like a toy. As Yuchi sees what was about to happen to Detective D, it was already too late. He now uses his dragon mace that is in the air to fight. Hence, the ropes that Detective D was suspended from have been untied. The dragon mace is hurled here by Detective D's helper right away towards Yuchi. Nevertheless, Yuchi is unable to grasp this dragon mace, since a demon caught it as it moved into the center. Suddenly that dragon mace belonged to Wind Warrior, while the fighter were about to kill Detective D's aide. Moreover, Water Moon had shown up here to save him. Seeing the dragon mace in the hand of the Wind Warrior as he has won the battle as it was appearing. But the jubilation of his win was brief. Since the white gorilla, who had previously met Dee's assistant at Master Yancey's home, had arrived at this moment. It had been made known that Master Yancey had come to rescue everyone. And while flying through the air, he had captured the dragon mace. When Wind Warrior noticed this, he became hostile. He therefore created his enormous monster to attack Master Yancey. And that demon was launching tentacles from its mouth and assaulting Master Yancey. Where the gorilla and Master Yancey had taken cover from that tentacle. The startling fact was that the demon's tentacles, which were about to murder Master Yancey in a matter of seconds, abruptly attacked the demon. That monster flies into wrath as a result of this attack. And he assaults Master Yancey, yanking out all of the terrifying eyes that were appearing all over his body. The moment those eyes had reached Master Yancey, they had popped like a bubble. Moreover, was mentioned among them. Yet in truth, Master Yancey was not hidden from those eyes. Master Yancey was now visible on that demon's upper side, where the gorilla is screaming in the demon's ear. This puts a stop to that devil there and there. Master Yancey now moves to the Wind Warrior. He explains to him that there is no gain in fighting. But Wind Warrior would not take his comments seriously. His fascination begins once more. And he puts something weird over Master Inichi's face, which he was having trouble overcoming. But the face of the Wind Warrior was also hidden by this enigmatic device. And after grasping, that enigmatic object claimed the life of Wind Warrior. On Master Yancey's face, the large, enigmatic item was suddenly gone, which Master Yancey, Dragon's mace, by itself quickly removes. He then returns that dragon mace to Detective D once more. And he had prostrated himself in respect. On this scene, the film has ended. Thank you.